Hi, welcome to the session of Econometrics. This is just an introducing session. You just revise what you have already on the topic econometrics. We know that econometrics is an applied side of economics, and in order to introduce the econometrics, we first know what is economics and what its application, and therefore I am just introducing what is economics first. We know that it's a social science, and as a social science it explains about the society and the agents of the society, or economic agents like consumers, producers, government, etc. and etc. As a social science, what is the role of economics, or what is the applicability of economics? We know that in almost all economies or all in society, there are so many policies for the welfare, for the growth, for the development of the economy, and therefore economics deals with how an effective policies should be framed for the better growth, better development, or better welfare of an economy. For these effective policies, we are applying the theories that is we are already developed under the science economics. Before applying the economics into a society or into an economy, we first need the validation of the theories that is already developed in the branch of economics. For this theory, only after the theory validation, we have to make policies based on the theory. For example, suppose we have inflation. We know that there are so many measures to be implemented as a corrective measure of inflation. We have fiscal policies, we have monetary policies, and before taking a policy, we have to analyze what are the theories of inflation, what are the reasons of inflation. That is, we are analyzing the theory that is already developed by the various economists, and only after the analysis of the theory, we are entering into the validation. What is meant by validation? Validation is a method of testing a theory that is already developed based on a set of assumptions, or we are developing an economic theory on the basis of some assumptions or a set of rules. As a theory validation, we are checking whether these theories are relevant for an economy, or whether it is working in the economy or not. This process of testing the theory is known as theory validation. Only after validating a theory, we have to use it for policy purposes. And for this theory validation, we are using the subject matter of econometrics, and therefore we can define econometrics as a procedure or a step for theory validation or economic theory validation. And now we are checking when or how this subject matter econometrics originates. We already know that for making effective policies, we have to validate economic theories, and the necessity of validation of theories creates some scope or possibilities for the origin of econometrics. The term econometrics itself was introduced by Ragnar Frisch in 1926, and after that the subject matter develops only after the introduction or the establishment of a society known as Econometric Society in 1930s, and this Econometric Society publishes their journal called Econometrica in 1933. After the publication of Econometrica, the subject matter of econometrics is well explained and discussed, and there are a greater acceptability for this subject matter after 1933. In order to define the term econometrics, literally the term econometrics means economic measurement, and so many econometricians gives so many definitions for the term econometrics. One among the definitions which are very popular was given by Paul A. Samuelson, T.C. Koopmans and J.R.N. Stone in their famous book Report of the Evaluative Committee for Econometrica in 1954. According to them, econometrics may be defined as a quantitative analysis. It's a quantitative analysis of actual economic phenomena based on current developments of the theory and observations related by appropriate methods of inferences. The definition says that we have a theory, and based on the theory is developed by the economics, the subject matter economics, based on the correct developments of the theory, and based on the theory we have some observations. The theory expresses the relationship between economic variables, and we have the observation relating to these economic variables, and we made a quantitative analysis of the actual economic phenomena on these variables and their observation by related methods of inferences. In short, here we are using economics and statistics. Basically, methods of inferences are come under the subject matter statistics, and the theory developed by the subject matter economics. Therefore, here there is a combination of economics and statistics are come under the definition given by these three economists or econometricians on the subject matter econometrics. Another definition is given by Arther S Goldberger in his book Econometric Theory in 1964. He defines econometrics as the social science. It's also a social science in which we are applying the tools of economic theory, mathematics and statistical inferences for the analysis of an economic phenomena. Therefore, we have some economic phenomena, and for analyzing these economic phenomena, we are using the three basic disciplines, that is economics, mathematics and statistics. By using these three disciplines, we are explaining an economic phenomena, and this is come under the term econometrics. Here we know that we can see that econometrics is a combination of these three disciplines, that is economics, mathematics and statistics. But it's a combination of these three subjects, but econometrics is distinct from all these disciplines. In short, we can say that it's a combination of economics, mathematics and statistics, or econometrics can be analyzed in three parts. The econo portion of econometrics stands for economics, metri means mathematics and CS for statistics. Therefore, econometrics, the term econometrics is a combination of these three subjects, but it is different from all these three. Now, we are checking what is the scope of these subject matter econometrics, or what is the role of the discipline econometrics, or what we are doing with the subject matter econometrics. There are mainly three roles for the subject matter econometrics. The first one is already we discussed, the testing economic theory, or it is called as, or it is termed as analysis. Analysis is the first role of econometrics. The subject matter econometrics tests an economic theory which is already developed by the various economists. And under the analysis, what we are doing is that we already know that economic theories, as we are considering any economic theories, these are developed by a set of assumptions. For example, when we are taking the law of demand, which is familiar to all economic students, what's the law of demand says? Ceteris paribus, or if other things remaining the same, there exists an inverse relationship between price of a commodity and quantity demanded of that commodity. That is, the law of demand or theory of demand starts with a word that all other things remaining the same. What are the all other things? It may be the income of the consumer, the family size of the consumer, the taste of the consumer, or the climate, etc. and etc. All these are assumed to be constant. If all these are constant, there exists an inverse relation between price of a commodity and the quantity demanded of a commodity. That is, when the price rises, we are consuming less of that commodity, and when price reduces, we are consuming more of that commodity. This is what is known as a set of assumptions. A theory was developed based on a set of assumptions. And using econometrics, what we are doing is that we are verifying these abstract theories with a set of assumptions by obtaining empirical evidences. How we have to obtain the empirical evidences? We know that in demand theory or in law of demand, there exist two variables, two economic variables, if other things remaining the same. The two variables are, one, the price of the commodity, and two, quantity demanded of the commodity. And as per the law of demand, the price is the independent variable and quantity demanded depends on the price, and therefore it is a dependent variable, and there exists an inverse relation also. In order to verify the theory, we need some empirical data or empirical observation or evidences relating to these two economic variables. Suppose we are taking the example of a particular commodity. Suppose it is a pen. We have different prices for a pen and different quantity demanded at each prices of the commodity of this particular commodity pen. When we have these observations relating to these two variables from the market, it is the process of obtaining empirical evidences. By using the values of these two variables, that is price and quantity demanded of that particular commodity, we have to verify the economic theory. It is known as the empirical evidences relating to these two variables, which is relating to the law of demand. Therefore, using these empirical evidences, we are checking whether there exists an inverse relation or not. This is the first scope of econometrics, that is analysis. Second one is the policy making. After checking the validity of the theory that is already established by using the empirical evidences, for policy making procedure, we have to obtain the numerical estimates of the coefficients of the economic relationship. That is, we know that there is an inverse relation exists between price and quantity demanded of a commodity, And in order to measure these economic relationships, we must have to have the coefficients of economic relationship. That is, first we are framing a relation between the price and quantity demanded of the commodity. And we know that quantity demanded of the commodity is the dependent variable and price of the commodity is the independent variable, and therefore we can frame a relation quantity demanded is a function of the price. And in the law of demand itself, it is explained that it is an inverse relation between quantity demanded and price of the commodity, and therefore the coefficient that determines the relation between price and quantity demanded of a commodity must have a negative sign. Therefore, when we are framing a relation between the economic variables, we first know the direction of the relationship that exists between these two variables. In our law of demand example, we know that there is an inverse relation, and therefore the coefficient of the independent variable price have a negative sign, and we have to measure or to estimate the coefficient, how much the value of the coefficient. Estimating the coefficients of the relation. First, we are building an economic relationship. In the case of law of demand, we can say that quantity demand is a function of price, or in other wise, quantity demanded, suppose we are expressing quantity demanded by Q and price by P. We know that we already know that there is an intercept coefficient for the demand curve, and therefore the relation between price and quantity demanded can be expressed as Q is equal to A minus BP. P is the price, Q is the quantity demanded, A is the slope, A is the intercept, and minus B is the slope. We know that demand curve is a negatively sloped curve, and therefore the slope must be negative. In this economic relationship, that is A minus BP, we have to estimate the coefficients, that is A and minus B. How this estimation is done? It is by the techniques of estimation, that is we have to estimate. Here we are using the help of discipline statistics, techniques of estimation. Only after estimation of these coefficients by the techniques of estimation, the techniques of estimation will be explained in a later session, and we have the regression models for estimating the relations, and by using the regression we are estimating the coefficients of economic relationships, and only after estimating the coefficients we have to formulate the effective policies. Why the effective policies should be formulated only after the estimation is that the effectiveness of a policy depends on the values of the coefficients, which determines the relationship between economic variables, which is explained in economic theory. Suppose we are using another example. We know that we have a balance of payment. A balance of payment, every country has a balance of payment. A balance of payment may be in sometime it may be in deficit, or sometime it may be in surplus. You already know what is a BOP deficit and what is a BOP surplus. And when there is any BOP deficit, a country run sequentially by year by year. If it is run in a deficit, we must have to correct the BOP deficit. One of the measure of correcting BOP deficit is devaluation, that you already know. The devaluation corrects some deficit in BOP. It's only one of the measure. In order to adopt a devaluation policy for correcting BOP deficit, we must know the coefficients like elasticity of export and elasticity of import. Why we are bothering about elasticity of export and elasticity of import before going to a devaluation is that the effectiveness of devaluation to correct a BOP deficit depends on the values of elasticity of export and elasticity of import. Only when the sum of these two elasticity is greater than 1, a devaluation policy corrects the BOP deficit. That is, we are taking a devaluation policy for correcting the theory says that a BOP deficit should be corrected by currency devaluation, and before doing the policy we know that a currency devaluation has so many effects, and before going into the devaluation policy we must check whether this devaluation corrects our problem, that is our BOP deficit, or not. If it only if it corrects the BOP deficit, a devaluation is effective. Otherwise the policy is ineffective and have so many bad effects to the economy. Therefore, in order to avoid these problems of devaluation, we check whether a policy is effective or not by checking the values of the coefficients like elasticities of imports and exports. Only after that we are doing the policy of currency devaluation for correcting a balance of payment deficit. Therefore, policy making means effective policy making. For effective policy making, we first have the economic relations and the coefficients of economic relations. By using the empirical evidences, we must estimate the coefficients of economic relation using the techniques of estimation. Only after the having the values of the coefficients, we are making the policies. Therefore, it's an important role or scope of econometrics is that for an effective policy making, we must have to use the methodology of econometrics on the theory of economics. That is the theory already developed by economics, and as a basis, theory as a basis, we are collecting the empirical evidences and uses the statistical methods of estimation and inferences for having the values of the coefficients of economic relations. Only after having these, we are going for effective policy making. And the third scope of or role of econometrics is that forecasting or predicting the future values of economic magnitudes. This scope or role arises when we are dealing with time series data. We have forecasting the future means we have the values of an economic variable for continuous years since some years. We can estimate or forecast the future value of these economic variable. What is the role of forecasting? We know that all our economic policies are not only for the present, but also it meant the future generation also, or almost all economic policies are for the future. We suppose we are taking the case of a 5-year plan. We are planning at present and it is a plan for the next 5 years. We are fixing the growth rates based on the growth rates that we are achieved last so many years. Based on the growth rates, we are fixing a fixed value, or we are fixing a value for our future growth rate or the for the next 5 years under 5-year plans. These are done by using the subject matter or the methodology of econometrics. In forecasting, what we are doing is that, suppose for example, we have the magnitudes of poverty for the last so many years with us, and we are introducing a poverty alleviation program, and we are fixing a target that after 10 years our poverty must be reduced to 5%. How this long term goal can be attained by using these poverty alleviation program is based on the values of the magnitudes. What are the variables determines our poverty is taken into consideration, and based on the values of the poverty we already have, only with the values of the poverty we have, we can fix a future value for our poverty, and this can be done using regression. This also can be time series regression. We are using the time series data on poverty and the influencing factors of poverty for fixing a future value for the poverty. Taking another example, suppose we already know that the NREG program, that is our Thozhilurappu program, introduced in India, it's an income generating program or an employment generating program for the purpose of poverty alleviation. We know that the poverty line is measured, or poverty is measured in terms of consumption basket or consumption expenditure. In order to have a fixed value for consumption expenditure, what income should be pumped to the economy is to be estimated, and only after that we make policies on income generating policies like MNREGs. MNREG pumps some income to the economy, and by using this income they are consuming, and based on this consumption expenditure the poverty is measured in our economy. And therefore MNREG aims to eradicate poverty by employment generation or income pumping. It depends on some measurement of economic magnitudes. What should be the income to push up our consumption expenditure to the desired level? This should be examined at first or in advance to take effective policies. These are the three scopes or role of econometrics. What we are doing with econometrics, what is the importance of econometrics as a subject matter. The three are the importance. First, we are analyzing or validating or verifying a theory that is already established by a set of assumptions, and second one, by using these we are making policies by considering or by estimating the numerical values of the coefficients of economic relationships, and last one, by using the time series data of a particular variable or so many variables, we are estimating, we are predicting or forecasting the future values of the economic magnitudes for effective future policies. Therefore, for applying econometrics effectively, we must have the help of econometrics. Therefore, econometrics gives application to the established theories of economics, or it gives the importance of the discipline economics. Only only mere theories do not contribute nothing to the society. when we are applying the theory for the benefit of the society or the economy, a discipline have its strength or its importance. And therefore, in this view, econometrics is the strength of economics. That is, econometrics gives strength to econometrics by giving its applicability in the society for better and effective policies. This is just an introducing part of what we are doing with the subject matter econometrics. Only after having an idea what is econometrics and what we are doing with econometrics, we have to enter into the subject matter or methodology of econometrics, and therefore we must understand what econometrics is doing or what is the methodology of econometrics. First, we are econometrics is not an independent discipline from economics. It depends economics for having the theories, for having the strong theories, for having the strong basis. Econometrics depends, or it depends economics. Only after having the strong basis we have to apply something, and therefore for its basis it depends economics. And by using the economic theories, the valid economic theories that already developed, it tests the validity of the established theories by using some empirics, and after having this validated theory, it applies into the economy for effective policies. The applicability of economics is policy making, and in order to have the best application, or in order to have best policies or effective policies, we are using econometrics. Therefore, both economics and econometrics are interdependent. They are depending each other. For having applicability, economics uses econometrics. For doing something, econometrics needs the fundamental theories of economics, and therefore in this sense these two subjects are interdependent, and they are independent also. These two disciplines are independent also, but they are interdependent also. And this is what about the econometrics is doing, or what is the subject matter, or what is the basic introduction of econometrics, what is the discipline econometrics. Okay.